I don't know if you all heard me, but you didn't see me. Anyway, let's somebody caught that in the comment. So, welcome back, everyone. It's good to see you. By the way, I'm wearing the wrong shirt already, so that's fantastic. In fact, it's already bothering me that I can see through myself because when you have a green screen, well, that's what you get. I'm back. Oh, brother, that was amazing. All right, now I can't see through myself, so that's fantastic. All right, I'm going to go through some of the comments, but I want to start talking about after I quickly look through the comments all this drone activity in the UK because the disinformation machine boys at England are like full on. They're going nuts, right? Lying to the American people. It's fantastic. You guys need to up your game. Like this DEI stuff ain't working for you, right? You gotta like mix it up a little bit. You gotta like your messaging's all off, right? Because your messaging is that like, maybe mystery drones, maybe the Russians are doing, but you can't say it's the Russians because if you do, it's escalatory. It could cause nuclear war, right? It could demand a response. But like if it's the Russians also, they have like potential godlike technology that can alter the fate of humanity on Earth. So like that's what you're going with. That's what you're going with. Wow, you guys are pretty special. I mean, like, wow, wow. And you should like Twitter's amazing. There's people like there was a guy on that UFO podcast who was like, "Oh yeah, this things happen frequently in the United States, 600 times a year." Do you know how many U.S. military air bases are in the United States? They're like, oh, there's 600 incidents a year. It's very frequent. There are roughly, I think there's like 59 like Seoul Air Force, but you also have like Air National Guard and all other sorts of military air facilities. You're talking around approximately 150. Okay. So if you assume there's 600 incidents a year, or there's 600 incidents last year, that's 50 incidents a month, which means that every one of those bases would have seen maybe one UAP incident every 3 months. That's not frequent, dude. So that's the first. Anyway, I don't want to disparage that UFO podcast guest, but he's just some journalist. And we know how journalists are. They just write down what the military guys tell them to write and say. They don't ask any questions. So when somebody asks them, why aren't we shooting them down? The usual. I've dealt with this on Wall Street too, when I don't want to get into it, but like companies would have these canned arguments, and then you would just find the data to show, they'd say things like, "Oh, sales are down because gasoline prices are high, so people aren't going to convenience stores, and the weather," and they'll just start blaming other things. And then you just look at the weather, and you're like, actually, the weather, it's actually much more mild. More people should be traveling. Look at vehicle mileage, so more traveling. So, so your product's declining despite increased traffic, this and that. Like, just you could destroy them with simple data, and that's basically what this narrative. So the next thing that they trot out is like, oh well, it's near residential areas, high population density, stuff like that. Guys, have you been watching Israel in like the last 10 years? I mean, like, you think Israel, excuse my language, but gives a fuck about population density? That Iron Dome system's like shooting stuff down left and right. And it's not even threatening the Dimona nuclear reactor. right? God knows what the Israelis would do to protect that, but they're like shooting drones down left and right over populated areas all over the place, right? Why? Because it's in their national interest to do so. Their primary mission is to protect the assets of Israel. Just like the primary mission of the United States military is to protect U.S. assets. And what are the crown jewels of U.S. assets? Nuclear weapons, right? If you think some commander in the Air Force could be like, I mean, like some of the arguments I'm hearing, it's like, oh, it's not, it wouldn't look good for publicity. It would be like a psychological defeat. You know what a psychological defeat is? When a drone with a freaking explosive on it slams into your nuclear weapons and causes a mushroom cloud over Britain. That's a problem. That's when you're really going to have to manage like your. Anyway, sorry guys, I'm going nuts because the disinformation is so. I want to use the R word, but I'm not. I can't. I mean, it is next level. Like, you don't want them to say this. It's gonna be there. I mean, like, guys, think. All right, I went too far on that one, but oh my god, just the utter. Guys, you got to work on your messaging. This is really frightening. You could cause a nuclear war. Like, it is that stupid. Just say we don't know what these things are. Anyway, the next thing that this guy says is like next level ignorant. I mean, like, you might have like they're going with like they're like quadcopter commercial sort of. Okay, well, in order to fly these things, you need a radio, you need an FM signal to go to and from the drone, right? Guess how passive radar works? It looks for FM signals and traces them back to source and this and that. And, I mean, it's just like, you don't think we have ECM jammers, electronic countermeasure jammers that can just shut off, block the radio signal, make the drone go boom without any kinetic effects? You don't think we have that technology? You don't think somebody over the last 30 years, thought with the $1 trillion a year, close to $800 billion a year we're spending on defense systems, somebody didn't say, I wonder if drones will be a problem for our nuclear assets. I mean, if you get some terrorist that put some explosives on it and slams it right into the thing, like that could be a problem. Like, if you don't think that military commander of that airbase is sweating his nuts off right now, and like, I mean, I guarantee you, if one of those things penetrated his defense system, he'd solve that problem in a fucking week. Otherwise, he's fired. Bring the next guy in. And if that's not happening, we are way beyond unprepared for what's going on. Anyway, I don't mean I'm just like, I'm beside myself for how stupid these arguments. So anyway, the next argument this guy makes is like, oh, well, we don't really, everybody thinks that we have these systems that would defend the stuff, but it's not like we have Patriot missile batteries. Patriot missile batteries? We're not shooting down an Airbus here. We're not shooting down aircraft with like a gigantic missile. We're shooting down like a 16-inch drone, according to them, that, that you could just take down with a laser, like a directed energy weapon, or electronic countermeasures, or a phalanx. I mean, a phalanx is a naval system, but still, it's not like the Houthis started firing drones at us, our ships in the Middle East, and we're like, oh, well, we're going to worry about publicity, so we're going to worry about the people on the side of the Red Sea, each of the side of the Red Sea, so we're not going to fire back. We're just, we got this covered, though. I mean, come on. Like, just the lack of like, simple intelligence of many of these journalists that just spout this stuff without thinking what they're saying. Also, has this guy ever heard of a manpad? Like manpad systems, right? Like Stinger missiles that you just kind of point, shoot, take down the drone. I mean, like, guys, this is not rocket science. Well, maybe a little bit of it is. Some of it literally is. But like, we've thought through all this rocket science a long time ago. This is not a hard problem to solve. So if it's not a hard problem to solve, okay, and these mystery drones are still showing up, there's really only one thing they can be, okay? And they're not Russian. They ain't Russian. All right? It's just, I can't. I know I'm going nuts here. But like, This is absolutely insane. It's insane. All right. So let me step all the way back. I know I've been kind of ignoring all the comments, but wow. Okay. All right. So let me go through some facts on kind of just lay out the facts on what's been going on and then just address this in a more calm and rational manner. I had to get the energy out first. All right. So, in terms of the background of what's been going on, there have been recent incidents that have raised serious security concerns at U.S. Air Force bases in the United Kingdom. So these are, UK bases, but the United States has assets on them. So between November 20th and 22nd, 2024, there were unidentified drones that were observed over 3 RAF bases in eastern England: RAF Lakenheath, RAF Mildenhall, and RAF Feltwell. I probably mispronounced them, but I'm just pronouncing them how they're spelled phonetically. So these bases are utilized by U.S. forces and are located in close proximity to each other in Suffolk and Norfolk. The drones varied in size, their number, size, and configuration. While they have not been identified as hostile, not anything flying over an airbase without authorization is by definition hostile. Okay? Just let's all agree on that. Their presence prompted heightened security measures in response. Approximately 60 British troops, including personnel with counter-drone expertise, were deployed to the airfield to assist U.S. forces in monitoring and mitigating potential threats. The Ministry of Defense Police, in collaboration with local authorities and U.S. forces, has initiated a criminal investigation into these drone incursions. Defense Minister Vernon Coker emphasized the importance of ensuring safety of personnel and assets at these installations. These incidents occur amid heightened geopolitical tensions, particularly concerning Russia's actions in Ukraine. Similar drone activities have been reported over U.S. military bases domestically, raising concerns about potential espionage or surveillance by foreign adversaries. The U.S. Air Force and UK's Ministry of Defense are actively collaborating to address these security challenges, employing counter-drone technologies to safeguard critical military infrastructure. Okay? So, when these drone incidents first started occurring, one of the first things, and you can look at my Twitter history, I'm not going to go and show it now, you can just look at it. I said, I bet you we pre-positioned nuclear weapons there recently. And this is a response by drones to that. Sure as shit. 3 days later, news report. Okay? So here's some background on that. So recent reports indicate the United States plans to station, so I think this is an older report, but they basically already have nuclear weapons at RAF Lakenheath in eastern England, marking the first such deployment in the United Kingdom in 15 years. So this is an important event. The specific armament involved is the B-61-12 gravity bomb, which is a variable yield of up to 50 kilotons, people. That's over 3 times the yield of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima in 1945. Now, it's kind of on the lines of a tactical nuclear weapon, but that's a pretty damn powerful tactical nuclear weapon. And my understanding of the B-61 series is that it's delivered via aircraft. Okay, I could be wrong on that. If somebody comes in and corrects me, I'm not going to challenge it. So, of course, this decision is reportedly in response to growing threats from Russia, aiming to bolster NATO's deterrence capabilities in Europe. The Pentagon has ordered new equipment for RAF Lakenheath, including ballistic shields designed to protect military personnel from attacks on high-value assets. Okay? Ballistic shields. Okay? What are high-value assets? I mean, construction on new housing facilities for American forces at the Big Ace basically started back in June. So the U.S. previously stored nuclear weapons at RAF Lakenheath during the Cold War, but they were withdrawn in 2008. This reintroduction of these weapons aligns with NATO's strategy to enhance its nuclear posture and amid escalating geopolitical tensions. However, Official confirmation from U.S. or U.K. authorities remains pending, and as it is longstanding policy to neither confirm nor deny the presence of nuclear weapons at specific locations. You know how I knew nuclear weapons were there? UAPs. Come on. In summary, while there are substantial evidence suggesting the U.S. is moving nuclear weapons to RAF Lakenheath, official confirmation is lacking due to policies regarding the disclosure of nuclear deployments. Okay? So, how has the U.S. dealt with kind of drone incursions in the past? All right, now, while it's not fair, entirely fair, to compare the U.S. Air Force to the U.S. Navy, because there's just some different weapon systems, here's how the U.S. dealt with it when they countered the drone threat posed by the Yemen's Houthi rebels. Okay, so they U.S. employed both defensive and offensive measures. So defensively, U.S. Navy warships such as the USS Laboon have been stationed in the Red Sea to protect commercial shipping lanes. These vessels are equipped with advanced missile systems capable of intercepting and destroying incoming drones and missiles. So, for instance, on December 23rd, 2023, the U.S. Laboon shot down 4 unmanned aerial attack drones launched by the Houthis. And then you have air defense systems, and this is probably more relevant for this particular theater. The U.S. has deployed high-energy laser weapons like the palletized high-energy laser, the P-L, to the Middle East. These systems are designed to neutralize aerial threats, including drones, by disabling their electronic components. So we have an air defense system that can shoot these things down without, resulting in, kinetic effects on the local population, other than like exploded not missile parts, but drone parts. Okay, so the damage done to the local civilian population not that bad, or potential for it. In terms of offensive measures, the U.S. has conducted precision airstrikes targeting Houthi drone launch sites, storage facilities, command centers. For instance, on January 11th, 2024, U.S.-led strikes in Yemen aimed at degrading the Houthis' capacity to launch attacks against shipping vessels in the Red Sea, and special operations. Covert operations have been carried out to disrupt the supply chains and infrastructure supporting the Houthis' drone capabilities. These efforts include focus on intercepting shipments of drone components and targeting key personnel, including involved in drone operations. So, if that commander wasn't on the phone to the Combat Applications Group, CAG, Delta, and calling for a search and destroy team of some sort, or British SAS, then they should be fired, right? But I mean, all you have to do, these drones are even if they're remotely controlled, they have an FM signal, and even if they're not remotely controlled, if somebody programs waypoints into them, right, they're going to be sending back a signal somewhere, right, either to a satellite or someplace else. So, we can detect these signals, and the other thing too is they have discrete ranges. So if you have a drone in a particular area, you can draw a circle, right, to establish what its maximum range is. And then you can go hunting and find who's controlling these drones. And if it's, Delta or somebody else, you eliminate the threat, right? This is not rocket science. But just the fact that, high boys in England think that the American people are that stupid, that we're just going to listen to these stories that don't make any sense, right? Like talking about the absolute wrong weapon system that you would use to take it down. Like, let me go through kind of the capabilities that the U.S. has to take something like this down in a way that, some of which might harm the population, but most of them were not. All right. So I count 5. Okay. So number 1 is electronic warfare, EW systems. So EW systems are designed to disrupt the communication links between drones and their operators, effectively causing the drones to lose control or return to their point of origin. The U.S. Army is developing systems like the multifunction electronic warfare at large and the terrestrial layer system brigade combat team, which can jam signals and provide electronic attack capabilities against unmanned aerial systems. Okay. Number 2, you got radio frequency jamming. RF jamming involves emitting signals that interfere with the frequencies used by drones for control and navigation. Systems such as Allen Vanguard's Ancile delivered optimized RF inhibition, deliver optimized RF inhibition to disrupt drone command and control protocols, creating effective no-fly zones to protect sensitive areas. All right, so this Allen Vanguard Ancile system, right? You can basically create a no-fly zone for drones. Okay, so if we got technology like that, we can create a no-fly zone. So why is stuff still getting through? I don't think it's Russian. That's why. Okay, I don't think it's some like pimply-faced teenager who's trying to like be the next War Games guy, right? It's something. That's why they keep calling it mysterious drones. I don't know what could they be. It's such a mystery. Number 3, directed energy weapons. High energy laser weapons are deployed to disable or destroy drones by targeting their structural components or onboard electronics. And then again, we go back to the palletized high energy laser, right? PHEL, to protect U.S. troops from enemy drones, marking significant progress in directed energy defenses. And then this is the so far of the 3 items that I've read. What is the impact to civilian populations in high density areas? 0. Okay, maybe like a drone part might hit you from a high altitude, right? That's about the worst that can happen. All right, so we're 3 for 3, guys. Totally safe. Number 4, kinetic interceptors. Kinetic solutions involve physically intercepting and neutralizing drones. The Raytheon Coyote, for example, is a small expendable UAS, unmanned aerial system designed to engage and destroy hostile drones through direct collision or proximity detonation. So the Coyote Block 2 variant features improved speed and loiter time, enhancing its effectiveness against UAS threats. So you have basically counter drones that fly around, look for the drones, and smash into them, okay? Again, it's not like a phalanx gun system, right? Which, by the way, is not mentioned in anything, but those things work to great effect, but you can't use them over high populated areas because what goes up must come down. You know the deal. So far, everything I talked about, only 1 out of 4 might be problematic for a high density area. Number 5 is the counter unarmed aircraft systems, CUS. So C-UAS strategies. So the Department of Defense has developed comprehensive CUAS strategies that integrate detection, tracking, and engagement capabilities. These strategies employ a layered defense approach combining EW, RF jamming, directed energy weapons, and kinetic interceptors to effectively counter the diverse range of commercial drone threats. So number 5 basically integrates the other 4 in a tiered approach and make these things kind of go away. Okay? So Anglin, what else you got? What other arguments you got? So look, is there a possibility that these are somehow Russian drones? Yes. Okay. I don't want to fully say that it's impossible and stuff like that, but there's a number of assumptions that have to be true. Okay. Number 1, whoever's running this operation is incompetent and should be fired immediately. Okay. So you have to assume that. Or number 2, the politician who is overseeing the military officer running the operation, is so risk averse that they're just stupid and are allowing this to happen. But when you're protecting nuclear assets, anything goes, right? You will murder people. You will do whatever is necessary. I shouldn't say murder people, but like you are protecting significant, like the highest and most important strategic assets that the United States has, unless we've recovered crashed non-human technology, which would be a little bit higher. But this is pretty important stuff. And this is not where you go, oh, well, oh, shucks. And oh, by the way, and I haven't seen this in writing. I'm just passing this on. This is rumant, but it probably is in writing somewhere because the person passing it on to me saw it, read it somewhere. There have been reports, apparently, that the pilots were I guess, broadcasting, or there were some radio communications that were broadcasting in the clear. And some of the communications were, "What is this? This is a UAP. I have no idea what this is." So there's a lot of chatter that was intercepted in the open source that these people are encountering UAPs. So what you're seeing right now is a pervasive disinformation campaign, which is perplexing to me because the narrative that they're selling is inherently escalatory. And when I mean escalatory, it means if these things were really Russian drones, then we got to respond. And that response leads us further up the nuclear escalatory spiral. I mean, just putting nuclear weapons in those bases. And we all know they're there. And the reason we know they're there is these non-human technology UAPs showed up all of a sudden. That's always the tell, guys. In fact, that's how on Twitter I knew. Maybe I made somebody sweat. Like, how the hell do you know that? Well, the drone showed up, guys. It's not rocket science. Okay, so that's my opinion. These things ain't. These things ain't. It's not jurisdictional issues, right? If you have nuclear weapons on the ground, you're going to shoot whatever is in the air down. Okay, nuclear weapons on the ground, everything in the air shot down. All right, remember that. So that's kind of where we are on this. All right, now I'm going to take some time to go through some of the comments because I think I got most of this off my chest because I'm beside myself on how ridiculous. Like, people don't think logically anymore. It's like a lost art or science. It's just like I don't get it. So I'm going to read through some of the comments as quickly as I can, and then we will go into the Pat Price papers. Which, if you all don't know, when last time one of the times I interviewed Daz Smith, he was sitting on these papers that Hal Puthoff had of Pat Price, who was a famous remote viewer, and had some interesting stuff. So those were released today. So we're going to go through that in the second segment, probably second hour here. Okay, but now I'm just going to go through the comments and then we'll continue with that. Oh, you couldn't hear me, huh? All right. Well, in case I didn't announce, you're listening to Through Glass Darkly Radio on United Public Radio, and the intro music was Mark of the Doomslayer by Carl Casey. Okay, so I'll just say that again just to make sure it got out because I thought it did, but anyway, let's see. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I've seen that too. I've seen the debunkers going overtime on that. I don't know what to make of it. Yes, they are. Yeah, I was. All right, I hope people can still hear me because the comments just went away for the last 10 minutes or so. Am I still? Yeah, I'm still online. I'm still in the air. Can somebody just say something so I know that the last comment I see was 15 minutes ago. Oh, brother. There we go. Okay. Did you at least hear me intro the show? Not the second time, but the first time? Oh my God. Okay. All right. So, any pushback on what I just said about the drones? Uh, Roger. Tango Mike, Timepiece Adventures. All right, for those not in the know, Lima Charlie means loud and clear, and Tango Mike means thanks much. No, I don't. I'm not dunking on the Brits. I'm like, the Brits aren't they're American assets there. It's not the Brits, right? Yeah, well, I didn't even start answering questions until right now. So you missed my rants. All right, so you didn't. I think you just saw my rants. Okay. All right. Any questions about these UAPs in the UK? I mean, this I am not a fan of Putin. Putin's not a good guy, but he right now is the only adult in the room. Okay? Like he is playing the game tit for tat like a rational player plays, and we're doing drunken ass things like sending moving nuclear weapons to Britain. Like we have submarines, guys. We don't need to like fly this stuff over. And I mean, it's crazy. Right now, what we're doing is crazy. I mean, those planes can. I mean, I don't even know how they ship them. They could have brought them via sub. They could have brought them via aircraft. But there are nuclear weapons that are on the floor of the Atlantic Ocean from like the 50s where they crashed years ago. So just moving these things around overseas and stuff like that is dangerous. Every time you move these things, it is dangerous. So we are playing fast and loose with human, like existential humanity here. Oh yeah. It was on Manchester Airport. Yeah, so to Solite's point, there was a sphere that landed almost, and I say almost landed on the tarmac at Manchester Airport. It hovered like inches off the tarmac. Yeah, it's probably the same phenomena, right? So whatever this is, whenever we move nuclear weapons or do something provocative with nuclear weapons, it's like a defense mechanism to protect the planet or to protect someone else's interests for this planet. And they always show up and kind of monitor the situation and sometimes mess with flight operations. I know in Langley, like they couldn't fly for a few weeks. So which is also what tells me that for some period of time they moved these weapons to Langley Air Force Base. Okay, I don't see it in the news, but the fact that these nuclear weapons, or sorry, that these drones showed up, these UAPs showed up, it is highly likely that in December 2023, as part of this escalatory posture, we move them forward to the East Coast from somewhere else, probably Manzana, nuclear weapons complex in Kirtland Air Force Base out there in New Mexico, and forward position them to Langley Air Force Base. So I just I'm tired of my government lying to me. Honestly, that's part of what's driving the fueling my passion tonight a little bit. It's just like I served honorably for 5 years. I did my duty. I believed in this country. And these motherfuckers just keep lying to us about literally everything. Right? I can't talk about the vaccine, right? Because video get pulled, okay? But you can look at the data and draw your own conclusions, right? I'm not going to say anything more because I don't want to get a video removed because I, said something that the Fuhrer disagreed with. So, but every time the stuff that's censored is stuff that ends up being true. So now it's like a heuristic. If they remove a video from somebody because they said something, it's always important to go and watch that video because whatever they said has a 90% chance of being the truth. Not only that, there was Mark Andreessen, right? He's a entrepreneur. Our government has like debanked people, right? There's no legal process. There's no due process related to it. One of their employees at Andreessen Horowitz had cryptocurrency in their title, in their like job title. Debanked. Couldn't open a bank account ever again in the United States. Right? Couldn't. No one would explain to them why. No one would. And apparently they have 30 entrepreneurs that this happened to. Like, what kind of government do we have? I mean, it is just, and it's been spiraling out of control since I would say January 6th of 2020. 2021. Like just spiraling out of control, right? I'm not going to get into any of that, but there are other things too, like the government's limiting the number of AI companies that are allowed to compete. They're limiting it to 3. What? Do they want us to be beaten by China or Russia? I mean, it is mind-boggling how much control. And the other thing too is the people who are doing the control are incompetent. They're incompetent. So like what makes them think they know the answers to like it's just all right, let's see what we got. Do I think the elites with resources are watching to know when to head for or watching what? Or watching what? Yeah. I mean, I'm beside myself that they've done this. All right, so on all the UFO signatures in Lakenheath military base in England and Manchester Airport Warbun runway. I don't know. I mean, the news reports say that there's different sizes, configurations, so they're probably not all the same. I don't want to categorically say that there's not a remote chance that some teenagers snuck one through, but I doubt it. I'm sure that base is on high alert. Yes, I am looking forward to that. Um, in fact, I'm beginning to see why Trump's picks are actually inspired. And here's why. I don't think Hegseth is qualified to be defense secretary. I don't think what's her name? The DNI pick, she's definitely not qualified to be the DNI. And I don't think Kash Patel is qualified to be the head of the FBI. However, when I heard that people were considering resigning because Kash Patel was going into that, I was just like, this is brilliant. It's brilliant. You're going to get all these like anti-democratic deep staters to quit. You won't have like you'll save on severance. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. It's brilliant. Right? I mean, like, I got to be careful what I say because I don't want to get targeted because that's what these agencies do. But there are certain agencies that have done more harm than good. And he's having the intended effect, right? Cutting government without, getting people to quit rather than having to pay them severance. It's fantastic. So anyway, I won't try to dunk there, but I agree with this sentiment. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of evil stuff that happened over the last 4 years. Yeah, I believe that. And that's after Meta sucked up to him during the censorship, to censor like American speech. So they kind of deserve it, in my opinion. Oh, wait, I get a video evidence of the military trying to signal or communicate with the UFOs using the runway lights on base, which is I did not know that. Yeah, movement of nukes. Yeah, that's when these things typically show up. So if you're just joining us right now, you probably want to go back and listen to my unhinged rant on like the current like unsophisticated disinformation that's going on Twitter right now regarding the UAPs. But I think I sufficiently dunked on some of the most prominent narratives. I'm tired. I'm tired of the stupidity, and I'm tired of being lied to. So it's pretty passionate. I apologize for that, but like, they've been lying so much that disclosure's not coming from the government. By the way, it's just not. It's not. It's coming from us and NHI, and NHI is probably working through us. Is what I think is how I think it's going to happen. So government doesn't get a say. Sorry, but we're going to do it on our own. Good luck with it. Good luck with your shtick. Okay. Nobody believes you anyway, and You've lost trust. You've lost the consent of the governed. We pay taxes because of coercion, right? Because if we don't, you'll send a hit team to our houses, a SWAT team to shoot us and kill us. So we'll pay taxes, but we don't respect you, and you don't own it, right? We are going to live our lives. We'll render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and we'll render unto God what is God's. But God is higher than Caesar, and you are a worldly power, and you don't deserve our respect. You have, but your coercion will, we'll kneel and we'll give you your money. But that's it. You don't do anything for us. You just, we live in a tyranny, and the tyranny that lies to us. And look, I wasn't always this way. I was rah, right? I was willing to die for my country, and I still am willing to die for my country. I'm just not willing to die for my government. My government is not my country. Okay? The government is a corrupt tyranny that, and even with Trump, I like where his head's at, but he's dealing with a Leviathan that will be impossible to unwind. It'll be fun to watch, but this is a Leviathan that has killed or disgraced prior presidents, right? So they killed JFK, which will quickly become clear, and they also publicly disgraced Nixon, right? They set him up. The whole thing was a setup. So, I mean, you don't have the biggest, electoral victory or popular vote. I can't remember what it was in history up to that point, and then decide to go and burglarize the Democratic National Committee. Like that's not the move you make, right? You don't have to do that. You won big. So anyway, I'm disappointed. I'm just disappointed in my country. I shouldn't say country. I'm disappointed in my government. Let's see. I've heard similar plans where they're going to move to like cheap cost of living places. So somebody's writing, for those who are listening, did you hear RFK's plan of making an HS Health and Human Services office in Guam and transferring everybody there to make them quit? No, but I've heard similar things where they move like the Department of Agriculture to like Topeka, Kansas, right? So and then change the salaries to reflect the cost of living in those areas. And then if you don't agree to move, you're gone and you're not replaced. So, oh no, yeah, no, no. People who think they can flee to bunkers, right? The survivors on the surface, the moment those clowns emerge, they will be ripped apart, and they should be ripped apart. December 3rd prophecy. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's in 2 days. I don't know. Whoa. So Catherine Wall writes, did anyone watch Danny Sheehan's interview today? He was also really emphasizing that citizens need to start having direct communications with the NHI now, CE5. That's actually concerning from like a devout Catholic, because you don't know what you're summoning, right? You just don't. I mean, you could have the best intentions and you could have a benevolent, but I am with Jim Semivan on this. You don't know what you're summoning, right? Like there are people who report poltergeist experiences after they do this. So I think there might be the wrong type of beings may respond, right? Like low vibrational frequency beings might respond. You might have a demonic attachment by doing it, right? Again, I don't know. I'm speculating. I'm not an expert on this stuff, but I would be very cautious. I would make sure that I had like the very best intentions before I did any of this. So I'm surprised Danny Sheehan said that, though. As a Catholic, that's a little iffy. So, I mean, if it's anybody else, who knows? But I would just be very, very careful. Catherine, do you know exactly? Do you know what, like did he say why we needed to do it soon or right away. Let's see. Yeah, I actually met his, I think, publicist or assistant or something like that at Seoul. So he told me he's going to reach out to me. I should actually. He said it was an oversight that Sheehan hadn't gotten back to me. So I will hopefully be interviewing him sometime in the near future, but we'll see. Um, yeah, Dave, that's certainly possible. So, um, yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So Jay Paul is saying Sheehan said that they're bad ET, says there's a variety, just like here, humans, good and bad. I believe that. You know, as above, so below. There's a reason that is a saying. As above, so below. As within, so without. Or it might be the other way. As within, as without, so within. Something like that. Maybe he just keeps moving. You see, he was at. Do you see the photo of him at RFK's Thanksgiving event? Like he had Thanksgiving dinner at RFK's house. Did y'all see that? Yeah, yeah. So he has to realize there's a chance for a bad encounter, but they believe in a good ET. It is essentially based on non-interference and free will. Yeah. All right. In about a minute or so, I'm going to pivot to the Pat Price documents. So, yeah. I think it was thinking aloud. I saw that there was a live stream that Jeffrey Mishlove had. So, um, oh, just hold on for a second. I got to disappear for a moment. All right. Sorry about that. I had to take care of noises in the background. Okay. So, without further ado, let me see if I can work this in a properly. Uh, okay, just to make sure that you can see that correctly. Don't like that. My apologies, people. I'm just trying to make this look the best possible. I don't like that either. Just go with this. Okay. All right. So I want to thank. You can find these on the remoteviewed.com. Okay, and that is Daz Smith's personal or remote viewing website. So highly recommend that you show him some love and some traffic and go to his site and take a look. Oh, interesting. So pay to these faces of ufology, Sean, and their moves, like you said, Sheehan and RFK. I got thoughts on things coming very soon. All right. All right. So let's start going through this. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, right, this is something that came out 1973. Hal Puthoff has been holding on to it for all these years because there's some sensitive stuff in here. It actually, unless you know the backstory, you're not really going to notice what it is, but I'll explicitly point it out because it's pretty crazy stuff. And remember, this is remote viewing. Not everything is going to be 100% all the time, but Pat Price was probably the most, if not the most, one of the most skilled remote viewers of this generation. Okay, so again, Daz Smith, remoteview.com. All right, there's some caveats here. Okay, so there's a few things that in his Freedom of Information Act file, right, the Stargate CIA file, Pat Price states, basically Pat Price was a retired police inspector. He became extremely adept in remote viewing, and he was exceptional. Okay, so I'm not going to go too much in this, but I'm going to just kind of skim some of it. Okay. So it's just kind of how he died. Lots of weird stuff. All right. So Project 8200. Okay. So he observed a bunch of ET bases, and people like Joe McMoneagle, Mel Riley, and Lynn Buchanan were tasked against locations cited in these papers. Okay. I've talked about this numerous times. Lynn Buchanan has talked about this numerous times. But these are actually the actual coordinates. So we talked about Mount Perdido in Spain. It's in the Pyrenees Mountains. Mount Inyangani, I don't know how to pronounce it, in Zimbabwe. At the time, back then, I think may have still been Rhodesia. These are the coordinates. Mount Hayes in Alaska, and Mount Zeal in Australia. Okay. So the good thing about this is it has his original, Pat Price's original charts and graphs, but it also has been typed up on the side of each page, so you can see everything. Okay. Now, when Daz reached out to Hal Puthoff for confirmation and clarification of a few points, he did not get Hal's usual response. I don't know what his usual response is, but I imagine it was a response. But it was just radio silence, and that kind of concerned Daz, so he went on hold for a little bit. But given all the gatekeeping and the ridiculous, over-the-top escalatory nonsense we saw recently with the UAPs over bases in the UK, I think he got frustrated. And he's like, look, they've been halted by gatekeepers and seem to be a stalemate. So he's concerned. He's seeing a growing narrative of people using and promoting the use of remote viewing. Actually, this is actually a great counterpoint to what Sheehan was saying. So Daz is actually concerned. So I'm just going to read his own words. That I am seeing a growing narrative of people using and promoting the use of remote viewing and CE5 to contact non-human intelligence. I know from my 3 decades of experience in these conjoined areas that this has great hazards for many people. I have stated many times an RV is not a toy to be messed with. We now have a wealth of growing data to support a theory that UAP alien interaction can have negative and positive physical and psychological effects. This has been recounted or recorded in books like Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, an insider's account of the government's UFO program by, so number of different books, okay? So I think I already mentioned this. So therefore, among certain people, phenomena can quote-unquote invade households, family groups, communities, and act like an infectious entity and cause small groups harm. Family members, many of whom in turn have been diagnosed with autoimmune disease, including Sjogren's syndrome, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, myasthenia gravis, Graves' disease, systemic lupus, erythematosus, so lupus, rheumatoid disease, fibromyalgia, and more. Right, so there's immune function issues, blood, lymphoma, all sorts of stuff. Okay, the hitchhiker effect, all bringing something home, transmissibility, all that stuff. So he's concerned about that. So he writes, we do not know whom or what we are remote viewing or contacting. The Pat Price documents and new scientific data indicate that there's potential for harm from contact experiences with UAPs and AHIs on many levels, both physical and psychological. There is even transmissibility to family and friends. Pat's initial data indicates a global This is very important. Pat's initial data indicates a global manipulation of humans on many levels and the ability to remove and unalive humans at will. So be warned, be very careful. As with all remote viewing, it should always be used to verify with other sources of information. We still do not have full feedback verification. When Pat's original 1972-73 information with the following project, 8200 data, we released this to both inform and warn anybody considering contact to be very careful in what you do and wish for. Okay? So here are some notes, more resources, etc., etc. All right. All right, let me just pause there for a second and see what folks are saying. Yep, McMonagall will definitely just go too. Yes, blood disordered. Oh, wow. Are you an experiencer, Hannah? I promise I'll come back to it, but I'm gonna keep going. All right, so I'm gonna skim through a lot of this. These are obviously the bases, okay? So I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it. Notice these are his original notes. This is just typed so you can all read it, okay? In my interview of Lynn Buchanan, he confirmed a lot of this. So the Pyrenees, so Mount Perdido was the main base. In Yangani was a maintenance and tech center. Hayes was weather and geological control. And then Zeal was a personnel center. So personnel for all bases and Homo sapien intro point. I don't know what they mean by theta detection. That seems to be the reason for the better theta detection at Zeal. Again, he writes, this area should be approached with caution. In fact, the whole area is under alert right now. So for a time, I'm going to look elsewhere. Okay, so again, 4 central locations on Earth. Primary one is located in the Pyrenees. The home port is Mars. And the primary purpose is to reinforce BTC implants. I don't know what that means. If anybody knows what BTC stands for, please let me know. And transplant of new recruits and overall monitoring function. So the personnel to all appearances like Homo sapiens except lung, heart, blonde, and eyes. Lung tissue is much coarser than Homo sapien. Heart has added chambers, one on ventral, other on venous side. It is for extra compression in and out of Earth's atmosphere. Blood is much darker on exposure to air. He notes that the eyes have same characteristics of a cat. They're very similar to them when viewed obliquely. They have much greater depth of lens. Skin tone has a bluish cast. Looks like Homo sapien with cancer. Yikes. And they use thought induction transfer. have knowledge of physical uniflow patterns, can induce instant sleep, hypnotism, then by thought transfer to monitor control of Homo sapiens, can direct movement of body to suit requirement. All right, so the one in the Pyrenees is located inside of a mountain about 1,500 feet below the peak area, faced northwest-west. Landing ports are built on cantilever extendable platform. When extended from side of mountain, goes out 125 feet. It has a conveyor system. As soon as one lands, conveyor transfers off pad, so another can land in a matter of seconds. I noticed a much larger recovery unit. It can extend out 376 feet. It's used for main transports interplanetary. Local units there are several in launch recovery area at time. And he writes, note, I have to be alert to not make actions in this area. There are a number of T-traps in and about this area, mainly to detect escape of new recruits. All around the area, 2 miles circle are various detectors, heat sensors, magnetic field detectors, special units. These units are very thin metal sheets, graduated in size, small about 1 foot square, largest 10-foot square. The sheets are held under tension around the perimeters. An arm extends out above and below the metal sheet with an indicator finger not quite touching the metal. If the metal detects a vibration, it sets up a harmonic wave which causes the metal to contact the finger, which transmits electricity to alarm system. Very interesting units, he says. So back to the units in launch recovery area, they took about 120 feet, I don't know, diameter maybe. Height, keel to crown, 40 feet. Propulsion looks like electromagnetic field. Located amidship, gimbal arrangement like gyro setup, 10-foot globe. Globe is constructed of metal laminates and non-conducting material alternating. For folks who've seen the orb in Manchester Airport, it kind of looks a little bit like that. All right, a non-conducting material alternating around a central ring metal and non-conductor is arranged to correspond with globe. From each metal conduit leads to a computer link that links with the control unit. The whole system works by known magnetic field of area, counterbalanced by opposing field in distant area. The outer skin is very thin compared to average skin. The outer edges of the unit are about 2.5 inches. Beneath outer skin is a layer of ablative material bound into outer skin, then about 1 inch of gas, argon, krypton. Then inner skin looks like, so this must be a craft he's describing. I don't know why this jumped. Yeah, it's still in order. All right, beneath outer skin of ablative material. Okay, so we talked about that. Inner skin looks about 1/8 of an inch. I noticed that personnel do not speak to communicate. Both male and female do all same tasks. Crew preparing for departure, no helmets. Units are pressurized. No fear of skin rupture. They strap on an oversole right over ankle length boots. Crew of 12, 3 are female. Mission CK monitoring units in their sector. Also monitor Skylab return. All right, so this is September 29th, 1973. Decided to look at location in Mount Hayes, Alaska, Wrangell Range. So this is the northeast side of mountain at 11,200 foot level. Same security measures as Perdido. Area is snow-covered, mountain is craggy, volcanic in origin. Launch recovery area and undercut mountain. Activity inside very relaxed. Scene area filled with what appears to be computer equipment instead of reels equipment, has metallic discs. There's a section filled with equipment, looks like oscilloscopes. One is used to match wave patterns. Decided to follow leads on oscilloscopes, find out where they lead. On top of peak is a small box-like structure, has antenna inside. Height of rods, 8.6 inches. Distance, 6.3. I don't know how he's getting these dimensions, by the way. Antenna is rotational. The links This links up to wave match. Oscilloscope's wave pattern is matched. The other units take over scan on the wave pattern. They have a cabinet full of small compartments that have crystals of fixed frequency, which are put in the oscilloscope to match wave pattern. When new wave pattern is discovered, admin unit determines frequency, distance, power output, pulse, etc. Data fed to computer. Computer determines match or mismatch with all stored crystals. If match computer states known sources of that particular pattern. If mismatch alert is sounded in order to physically seek out source of power output and to monitor, get data in return, oscilloscope creates new crystal and all known data. I don't know what we're talking about. All new patterns are investigated until enough is secured to determine source and utility of new pattern. Alert is maintained until new source determined has negative potential in their own actions. All activity assumes any potential for discovery. Personnel are deployed physically in activity to make certain of failure of that particular project. It all comes to mind that these quote-unquote people have infiltrated all governments in sensitive positions, in positions of power, to stop politically any activity that may produce a result that could cause discovery, particularly scientific fields, space fields, energy fields, church, education, financial. This is extremely important to repeat. It comes to mind that these people have infiltrated all governments in sensitive positions, in positions of power, to stop politically any activity that may produce a result that could cause discovery. Okay, so now he just goes back to Hayes. Just put a pin in that. Okay, so I'm just going to look at some of the madness and experiencer, guys. So just to remind that these are one of the illnesses that were associated with the phenomena, and Hannah has it, and Hannah is an experiencer. Yeah, that's all fair, David. Yeah, unalive. Eddie, maybe I don't know what that word means. Does it mean dead? Right? Or does it mean something else? Does it mean soul separation, but your body's still there? I don't know. It's a great question. So it could be a scientific commentary with all sorts of things. Yeah, I agree, David. Well, that's good. Yeah, I don't know about Bitcoin. Yeah, I mean he's not our ally. Let's just say. I think he's a rational guy, but he's his actions have led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. So he can't be a great guy. But yes, he is the only adult in the room, 100%. Really? He couldn't talk about rods of God? Yeah. So for people who don't know, rods of God are simply an orbital weapon. So you put like these long tungsten rods in orbit, and if you just drop them from space on targets, they have kind of like a similar kinetic energy to nuclear weapons without all the problems of nuclear weapons, all the radiation. They're called rods from God. It's been out there in the zeitgeist for a very long time. We probably have them. I can't confirm or deny. I have no idea. Yes, and there's more in there about that full infiltration, but it makes a lot of sense. And it may have been longer than that. It may have been long before 1973. No, I did not see the mid 1800 art of the arrow with Trump written at the top and 45 in the corner. I did not. Hey, Brett, good to see you. Interesting. Well, I mean, did he post it anywhere else on the thing that was pulled? Interesting. All right, I'm going to go back and continue. I just wanted to make sure I covered everybody. All right, so back to Hayes. Just determined that this site has been responsible for strange activity and malfunction on U.S. Soviet space projects. The computer at this site is fed all data acquisition from all space activity on Earth, U.S., Soviet, etc. Can cause false commands to space vehicles, which results in unforeseen and unusual behavior of vehicles and crew. And then 8 p.m., September 30th, 1973, decided to return to Hayes site. Activity very quiet, in fact, very relaxed. So I decided to look at the Inyagani location, located facing east in peak area, about 6,200 feet. This area is not same as first. I looked at this base. Looks like overhaul and maintenance unit. Can see lots of spare equipment, etc. Also, personnel don't appear to be as sharp as other teams. I don't know how you can tell that, but they don't appear to be as sharp as the other units. They're doing some welding. Looks different than I've seen before. Parts being welded or put in a vacuum chamber with window area. Then parts pre-fused. Grayish white powder is pasted on to both parts, then fused. While I was looking at the welding point, my attention was drawn to a unit several people were working on. It's a tubular grid system. So I guess it's whatever this is. Electrical connections are on opposite ends of tubes. Alternatively, welded across the top of the tubes, a unit looks like a waveguide. So A end of the waveguide is a connection to junction C, right? So there's junction C. From B end of waveguide is electrical connection to BCC. I don't know what he's talking about, but I get the impression that the whole unit is for ionizing a layer of air, has something to do with smog. Ionize a layer of air and it traps air mass below it. Well, I'll look at that more later on. So Mount Zeal, the station is located facing west-northwest at 4,000 foot level. Standing in launch recovery area, I'm looking out over the great sandy desert area. It's very interesting that this unit appears to have the greatest number of personnel. Frankly, I expected this site to be the least personnel, or to have the least personnel. For one thing, there are personnel from the other three sites here, like a rest and recreation area. He writes, I felt slightly disoriented for a few moments. They may have detected me, so led them to Melbourne. There's a scientist there who is known to be very interested in the Great Sandy Desert and is preparing an expedition for a year's research. Locked them onto him, and the disorientation disappeared. This is so weird. I mean, this guy was apparently so skilled he could do things like this, if true, right? Back at the site, there are vehicles here from all the other sites. The ID on the units are different. Okay, so he decided to look at the Bermuda Triangle and determine the nature of the area. If you extend vector lines from each of the four locations and intersect them on the tip of Florida, you get two lines of the Bermuda Triangle. For great ages of time, the tip of Florida was the compass setting for trade routes and navigational computations for incoming migrants from South America, Africa, and Europe. This made an ideal site for acquisition of physical data monitoring point. When it was decided that physical data of a general nature was desirable, the units went to this area and set up a magnetic electrical disturbance, guided in whatever the target was, i.e. ship, plane, used tractor beam device to hold target, physically took personnel aboard, then disintegrated vehicle and returned to their base, did a preliminary data withdrawal from personnel, victims, then transferred them to their home space for further study, mainly post-mortem. What? Okay. Let's do this again. So basically, these non-human intelligences created a system in the Bermuda Triangle to abduct people. They took some data, then I don't know. Post-mortem means after death, so I don't know if they let them live for a while and then, or if they did something that killed them. and then sent their bodies back home, and back home being to their home. Some they did an operation on, heart, lung, and transported them alive. Basically, they used Homo sapien agents. The intended agent is taken in initially by thought induction, programmed as to their mission function. Then a resonance vibration is sent into them. This is the triggering device. When the agent receives subliminally the restimulation of that particular vibration, ultrasound, they key in and start relaying the acquired data, and then can also receive updated data. The answer to unwinding this puzzle is to locate the exact frequency of the implant, reproduce it in the vicinity of the agent, then by thought transference bleed off the data, and then install new data. This is crazy stuff. Okay, so this is October 18th, 1973. 7:10 p.m. He decided to take a look at some UFOs tonight. Located 3 just north of Huntsville, Alabama. Right now they're 68,000 feet. Cruising on a heading toward Oak Ridge, Tennessee. You all know what's in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Well, it's coming up next, right? Have a rendezvous at 10:15 Eastern Time with agents that works in atomic energy plant, right? Tennessee Valley Authority, all that stuff. In Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Name Roy Weaker, who has some newly obtained data on enriched material. Rendezvous and hill located 7 miles northwest of Oak Ridge and 6 miles due west of Clinton, Tennessee. There's a plateau on ridge on west side of ridge, about 3 miles up Mountain Road. They're to meet there. Just one ship is going down, others to separate. Number 2 ship is to go to Norfolk, Virginia, and photo Norfolk Navy Base, Portsmouth, and Newport News. Number 3 is heading to Jacksonville, Florida. So far, I can't pick up on intention of number 3. They are all in rendezvous over Nassau, Bahamas at 12 p.m. or 12 local time, then return to their home base. Their base is number 1. Okay, so I think number 1 was Mount Perdido, I think. Okay, so 8:50 p.m. Pacific Daylight Standard Time. Took some time to watch the series. Number 2 and 3 are over Bermuda Triangle. Number 10 is on the way. Number 1 got some data on 3 projects. Remember Project Moonbeam? Remember that one? Right? I believe that was like sending like a radar signal to the moon, stuff like that. I think Beatrice Villarreal spoke about it at the Seoul conference. Number 2, Starlight. Number 3 was Moondust. They picked up a container with sample of material, some diagrams on mercury shielding of new material. Plan to return to same location next Monday night at 8:55 p.m. All 3 together heading out over the Atlantic, increasing altitude up to 200,000 feet, heading almost due east. There was some comment on flight regarding Pascagoula incident. In fact, some concern seems someone is playing a truth or some other unknown unit made the contact. Okay. So this is the Pascagoula incident, right? It was 1973 at the same time. They don't use the technique of altered concept implant, just use heavy memory shutdown procedure. It is entirely possible the incident may have pulled off by crew from Green Planet. There also was some comment regarding renegade fleet from their own home base. It was reported 10 days ago that a dissident group of 30 ships left. It was projected that they had gone elsewhere, not to this location. This is the first comment that I have detected as to a possible defection or unrest or dissension of any kind. As above, so below, folks. When I get time, I'll follow up and possibly do a scan on the Green Planet and on the purple one too, and determine what is going on. Could be very significant. Could explain increase in local areas on agent contract, faster material gathering, and other unusual phenomena. Incident rate seems much higher than I suspected. In looking at some possibilities now, so I'll explore them while I monitor the 3 local ships back to their base. I'll have to interject monitoring into the other to get the time continuum handle. I don't know what that means. Possibilities are: one, maybe a revolt on home planet, purple. Dissident groups may have broken away and have established bases on Earth. If so, this could pose a serious problem to the regular established bases and is common information as to other locations of primary mission responsibilities. They may infiltrate, take over Earth bases. Three, locals are over canal spread out about 100 miles, altitude 18,000 feet. Number one, canal heading south. Number two, 20 miles east. Number three, 70 miles west. Number three, toward, I don't know what that means. Number two, back trains, Mediterranean more east. Number one is descending to 3,000 feet slow. Number two, turning north, heading across Mediterranean to Aral Sea and then down to Kiev. Number two, number one descends and lands 30 miles south of Medina. All three are on communication. Later, I'll have a look at tech online. When local, home, direct, do not rendezvous again. The distance may be located elsewhere and make new contacts with all known Homo sapien agents to cause upset. Other possibility is Green Planet may be making a move on Purple Planet. I already know that they have their own agents infiltrated into power lines of Power Planet. This may be the opening gun on total takeover of Purple by Green. In any event, sure looks interesting as hell. I'll try not to be so busy as to neglect the area for at least the next week or so. This is some trippy stuff. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break and see if anybody has anything to say. Let's see. Okay. Who knows? Let's see. Humanity's still asleep, folks. I mean, we're so far infiltrated, right? I mean, we may have been infiltrated since the beginning of human civilization, for all I know. Yep. A lot of people in a lot of trouble. That's for sure. Oh boy. Yeah, it is nuts. Look, and this is just his perceptions. None of this might be real, right? It could be just deliberate misinformation or disinformation. Who knows? Well, that's a weird synchronicity for you, Woo Riders GG. Yikes. They started so well. Yeah, Via Royale. Uh, Beatrice Via Royale, I think, is the name. I know. We're definitely not alone. Ah, Avara 59. Thank you. That's actually important. That's extremely important context, right? And I think a year later we signed the petrodollar agreement. A lot of weird stuff was. Yeah, it's always good to have historical context. I think he's seeing a purple planet and a green planet. So the entities that were in the Pescagoula incident, which are these like weird Michelin men looking entities, apparently came from whatever this green planet was, and they were going for some purple planet. Yeah. So, all right. So I'm gonna go back. This is some crazy stuff. I hope you're enjoying me. I mean, I'm just kind of reading it, but I'm just trying to get through it quickly because there is a bombshell. Like he doesn't quite name names, but if you look at who was in all these positions in 1973, it gets pretty interesting. But let's continue. Okay. All right. So this October 17th, 1970, so you decided to pull in this area some units to test the percepticability. Noticed last night they arrived in the general area about half hour after I finished my scanning, going to see if the same text work tonight. If it does, there should be sightings around 9:05, 9:30 coming in from the northwest. Should hit land 20 miles north of Point Reyes and fly on a course toward Fresno from Fresno. Should turn due west and hit coast between Vandenberg and Pismo Beach, then up coast to Monterey Bay, then back into our valley again. Should stay in our area then for at least 1 hour. I plan to go outside for a few minutes, take my binos, and watch for them. 7:37 going outside now. 8:36 stayed for an hour. Didn't see a damn thing but some aircraft. So I'll scan and see where the hell they are. Felt absolutely sure they come in tonight. So I guess he's just looking for craft. Looked at site number 1, still working on equipment. Doesn't seem to be anything unusual going on. About the same number of personnel, although the launch recovery area is empty. Generally 5 or 6 units in secondary area. Must have put out all available units. Incidentally, the units from this base have a hole marking like this. So I guess this is the hole marking he's talking about, maybe. Yeah, hole marking like this. Okay. Looks like it's etched, not painted, kind of frosty color on metal. Taking a look at the communication system I wrote about the other day while I'm working at the setup is so unreal. I noticed the inval buttons trying to work, so I must be right. So here goes. All right, so I think these are just buttons. Look like happy faces to me. I love how put off has like a stamp. Okay, so let's see. All right, so a headband fits around head of person transmitting. Band is non-metallic. Inside a band are 2 metal contacts about size of a P. 2 are in front over forehead. 2 are just above the temples. 2 in the rear of head, about 1 inch from point of the atlas. 1 inch from point of the atlas. Separate wires shielded run inside of headband and collect single conductor cable that connects into an amplifier unit. Sender thinks picture message, pick up contact points, transmit separate portions of thought pattern into amplifier. Signal gets boosted and is then transmitted via antenna. Receiving set receives impulse and reconvert into thought impulse on receiving end. I observed one in use and saw the sender was tuning up output after message tuned both down. Looked around site 1 and see portable units in a work area. They're changing something in possibly the frequency range. There are 200 to 225 in there. Well, that's pretty well how they work. Going to site number 2, see what's new. Same there, all units away. None in launch recovery area or in secondary parking area. I'll try number 3, same there. Try site number 4. There's one hell of a lot of units here. It looks like a general conclave. The place is packed with units plus 2 home units. They are much larger than local units. One of the larger units has a system aboard. Each one of the personnel there is getting a new identity code imprinted in upper left chest area. Notice imprint can't be seen but can be read on a scope. It appears that each one will get the imprint tonight. After tonight, anyone at site bases without new ID gets the works. There's a briefing for security of officer personnel regarding new ID system. Portable units are to be taken back to their respective sites and set up to scan all personnel incoming and departing. Anyone without paper ID is to be eliminated at once. Then Site 4 is to be notified. This sounds like science fiction. It's so crazy. There may be 3,000 to 3,500 dissident personnel that left home bases on the loose here, and this is the procedure to detect and handle them. Also, from now till further notice, Site 4 will issue all flight orders and control all flights. They are going to use a sequence procedure to detect any other unit that any other units that are in any quadrant that do not coincide with sequence procedure. All bases are to remain on alert and to attack and destroy any units not accounted for. Looks like a breakthrough could change all prior sightings and contacts. I somehow have the feeling that smog situations are deliberately create a condition. Yeah, I would not be surprised. In fact, I could state that the area of air immediately above the smog belt is in fact ionized. In exploring the thought, it comes to me that installations are planted and activated remotely to create the conditions to cause smog. The idea seems to fit. We certainly have spent billions on smog abatement, etc. Fits the psycho-political pattern. Also, i.e., interiorize attention on an artificial problem by pointing out the threat of survival by the problem, then trigger your agents to beat the drums and keep attention focalized on the problem, then spend control. Quote, spend to bring the problem under control. Works beautifully too. Very cunning. Sound familiar, folks? Let's all together now. Interiorize attention on an artificial problem by pointing out the threat of survival by the problem, then trigger your agents to beat the drums and keep attention focalized on the problem, then spend control. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Doesn't it, kiddos? Well, I'm in the mood. I'll write down a list of the activities they are directing. So 1, financial, 2, ecology, 3, religion, 4, minority factions, 5, prison reform. Note, they select titles for their groups that make it impossible to defer with or rebuke, i.e., Keep America Beautiful, National Auto Safety. So apparently they also work with women's lib groups, the KKK, the Black Panthers, Veterans Group, American Legions, DAV, Veterans of Foreign Wars. Their method is to create and finance a pressure group, implement the program, then leak info, and then finance the opposition group, and third-party hell out of things for as long as it will last. Sure keeps attention fixed and directed. Excuse me. Okay, this part's crazy, by the way. I'm gonna take another quick break. Go to see what folks are saying. I hope so. I hope I'm not boring people. I hope it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Yep. It certainly does read like an internal memo of the current deep security state. It certainly does. All right. All right, let's get back to it. All right, so decided to look at a storm that is presently hitting, I guess this is October 24th, 1973. Decided to look at a storm that's presently hitting the area as there are certain characteristics that appear unusual. Wind is out of the south, gusty, intermittent, heavy rain, but there is something about the storm that doesn't feel right. Just as I wrote that last line, I got the feeling that there was a relationship of interspace connections in the storm. It would fit certain conjectural points that I have considered. In the past 2.5 years, I have been able to control weather over very wide areas. To remove every doubt to the fact I was controlling weather or looking on future time track and predicting weather. I have reversed wind flows, moved various layers of clouds in different directions, stopped heavy gale winds on command, created temperature inversions, and moved weather patterns to very unusual departures from 100-year cycles. I started on this particular ability in Hawaii. There was 120 straight days of rain, heavy enough to knock out construction for that period of time. There are many editorials and newscasts on the unusual weather there. When I returned to LA, one of my friends mentioned she hated rain and cold. LA had the lowest rain total and mildest weather in the last 100 years. That was winter 71. Moved to Lake Tahoe mid-spring 72. Another friend suggested that an early heavy winter was desirable. Heavy snows, but substantially early, and late, very heavy all winter, clear into late May. The reason I relate this is to note that I am not unskilled in handling weather, particularly when I have an immediate interest involved. This storm has some very unusual characteristics. 1, wind from south in circular pattern. 2, collision of warm from moving up from south colliding with cold front moving wind down from north. highs and lows of 1,500 mile north-south, not of generally accepted prior pattern. There are some highs where there should be lows, very unusual. Now, the fact that I'm not doing it and it's happening interests me, so I'm going to find out the source. It occurs to me that a large area, say 400-mile diameter area, if ionized, would create a low in that area. Then the excess protons positive could be laid in an area, and that would create a high in that area. Now, the fact that air flows out of a high into a low one could control the direction of the wind. Now, if the normal airflow was down from the north, say North Bering Sea area, the normal path would be across the Gulf of Alaska heading south, essentially south, and would start swinging eastward off Canada west, and the lower extremity at the front would extend south to San Francisco Bay Area. The track would generally be to the east across the U.S. About 70 or 37.0, I don't know what that means, out into the Atlantic, then northeasterly across Sweden, etc. Now, if you see that pattern, if you put a 200-mile low over, say, Fresno, Pismo Beach, and another high in area of Baja California, the result would be warm air would flow down the strip from Baja to fill the low centered in Fresno, Pismo area. The normal high off coastal Washington would flow in cold Arctic air from the north and set up a collision of very warm weather front, the cold front, and create a very unusual weather pattern. It could also create cyclones exactly the same way. Now, this particular storm strikes me as having that exact pattern. Looks like the area of Fresno, Pismo Beach area has been ionized about 6,000 feet. I note that at 40 to 60,000 feet above Fresno, Pismo has ice clouds while there's a temperature inversion at 6,000 feet. The atmosphere in vicinity of Gulf of California has been overbalanced on positive charge in atmosphere not normal. The pattern of high-low, this part's really boring, folks. I'm sorry. The pattern of high-low in western U.S. is not normal or usual. It occurs to me that one could do considerable traveling at fairly low altitudes and not be observed in this type of weather pattern. In fact, it's ideal. Then any unusual occurrence can logically be accounted for by the unusual weather. Any strange flashes of light could well be power transformers. I'm checking now for any craft in the air below 300,000 feet. There are 7 in the area bounded on the south by Santa Maria, North Coos Bay, Oregon, East Reno, Nevada, West Pacific Shoreline. They are working in true groups 4-3. Group 1, 10:54 p.m., Vandenberg area, Mooroc, Edwards vicinity, cruising above Owens, Los Angeles Aqueduct, over Livermore, California area. Suddenly occurs to me that the locals are on a search mode for intruders. That's what they are trying to locate as I scanned each unit. I located what I thought analytically they would be interested in that area. Now, when I get off the analytical band, I realize that each of the areas is a very remotely isolated area around, ideal for a distant group to find temporary sanctuary in. In fact, I just located 3 on ground east of Alancha, California, in very high mountains east of Mount Whitney. I couldn't figure out why number 3 of Group 1 was cruising that godforsaken stretch of country. Now I'll try to locate the other 27 if I have time right now, 10:55 p.m. Before I do that, locals are armed to the teeth and seem very nervous. I've never seen that like that since I've been scouting them. In fore and aft sections on both sides of midship line are launchers, 3 in each section. That's a total of 12 launchers. The unit inside looks like a ramjet with atomic warhead. Looks very efficient. Looks like they are guided by laser. Can see video display in forebay of ship, 3-dimensional display. Looks like fire control center, very sophisticated. With look in detail later. We'll look in detail later. Also note changing uniform material looks much different. Gives impression of pressure suit in lieu of flexible clothing plus solid helmets, self-contained. Also 3 smaller attack craft in aft section of craft. Looks about 12 feet diameter by 5.5 feet keel to crown. Haven't seen this size before. Have to end for now. Have company coming. 11:10 p.m. Right. Okay, group 3, 1 northwest Reno, Nevada, from Reno to Harlong, California. 2 above Mount Santa Cruz to Pacifica. 3, just so Coos Bay, Oregon, working a pattern from coast to 30 miles inland down from Crescent City, California. Without looking specifically at this time, I've concluded that we have a comparatively new hidden installation in that particular area. Their search pattern makes me certain they have located it in their mapping area. Topography, infrared, sonically. Ugh. Okay. This is December 6th, Thursday, 1973. Looks like the checkout is over. There should be a number of sightings over the southwest part of the U.S. and over Alaska over the next several weeks. The dissident group was able to maintain their whereabouts from locals. It should be very exciting and humorous as the second group now intends to fly too. The locals will think the extra sightings are the results of overactive imaginations of some Homo sapiens. The funny part is they were the first to plant the idea that sightings were due to overactive imaginations. Now they will fall victims to their own propaganda. No danger at all. It should take about 6 months for the locals to get the idea that the extra sightings are valid. Then it will be very interesting. By then, they will realize the impact of what has happened. Then the cat and mouse game will start up again. The second group will hide again, and the locals will do another 6-week checkout. Should be good for at least 1.5 years. Still no danger, as by that time, the locals will realize they haven't come under attack and know the second group intends them no harm. That looks like the best time for a personal contact. The local commander will put out a tentative feeder for a meeting with the second group commander. And when that happens, I intend to make contact and offer to act as a mediator. This is some crazy stuff, people. That way we could all have a safe space and a great deal could be accomplished to take all the mystery off the lines. I know I could convince them that we are not all criminals. At least it could be the first meaningful tentative step in the right direction. Okay. I just checked the 4 major bases, and they are back in routine normal operation. I don't have the complete handle on the 6 weeks ground cycle. It seems that a unit grounded for 6 weeks needs to recharge or recycle for the propulsion system, and the locals feel that they are the only ones on this planet that has the material for recharge. I'll have to check that out. Later on, I'll check site number 3. This material must be located there. Also, I'll check group number 2's location, as I know they are operational, so they must have brought a new system with them. Well, that's all for now, 8:50 p.m. Okay. All right. I'm going to take a break because the next part is interesting. Okay. So let me just put it on something that's, let's leave it there. All right. What do folks have to say? I appreciate that, Paco Pete. Well, I mean, he wasn't viewing. He was just talking about his own foray into weather control. Interesting. Lemoore Air Force Base is 32 miles from Fresno. Yeah, there's definitely a lot. Okay. All right, let's just jump back in. I almost timed this perfectly. All right, this is where it gets a little creepy. All right, so these are the infiltrators, according to, it doesn't really say, but you have to kind of read between the lines. But this is, again, Pat Price. It doesn't mean it's real. It could just be his imagination. But these so-called people have infiltrated the elite. Okay. Again, this is 1973. So these individuals can best be detected by the following lines: very pragmatic and authoritarian. Well, that sounds like the Global Economic Forum or the World Economic Forum, the WEF. And then sources of third-party activity. I don't know what that means. So science field. Most renowned physicist. Published works used in advanced physics field used in major universities, etc., set selves up as coordinators of field, Rhodes Scholars, work under grants of 1. Rockefeller Foundation, 2. Ford Foundation, 3. International Science Foundation, 4. World Federation Mental Health. Okay. All right. Space fields. The U.S. Chairman, U.S. Senate Space Committee, Chairman House Space Committee, Director Space Center, Houston, NASA, Director Computer Center, Space, NASA, Advisor to the President, Space. Soviet Bloc, Chairman Scientific Space Research, Cosmic Research, Science Advisor to Supreme Soviet Presidium, Gorky. Deputy Director of Internal Security, USSR, Chairman Department of Physical Sciences, Moscow University, and then the Secretary to Chairman of the Presidium. I don't know if you can actually see the names here. No, you don't see the names. So they weren't excised, so I just didn't put the names. All right, First Energy Fields. Chairman, Sierra Club, U.S. Space Advisor to President, Energy Resources, U.S. Chairman, International Energy Committee, U.S. Director, New Energy Resources, U.S. Ford and Rockefeller Foundations, U.S. Chairman of the Board, Saucony Vacuum Mobile, U.S. Deputy Director of the Nuclear Energy Commission. The Church, oh boy. The Archbishop of Canterbury in England. The presiding chairman of the College of Cardinals in Rome. The Grand Master of the Masonic Lodge. The assistant director to the Council of 12, the Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, and then the president of the World Federation of Churches. Education, chairman of the selection committee for the Rhodes Scholars. That's interesting. The director of physical sciences at Harvard, the dean of the School of Law of Harvard, the dean of business at Yale, the coordinator advisor of education, HEW, the dean of social sciences at Columbia University, the director of education, the advisor to the BS of A. I don't know what that means. The president of Teachers of America. Financial. So these are all chairman of the board. Chairman of the board, U.S. Reserve Bank. Chairman of the board of the World Bank. Chairman of the board of the Soviet Monetary Bank. Chairman of the board of the Bank of China. Finance Minister of France. The Chancellor of the Exchequer of the Bank of England. The chairman of the board of the Rockefeller Foundation. Chairman of the board of the Ford Foundation. Chairman of the board of the Bank of Tokyo, Mitsubishi. Chairman of the board of Banco de Mexico. The financial director of Argentina. That's all she wrote, folks. So definitely go to Daz's website. So again, remoteviewed.com. And you get your own copy and you can spend a little bit more time with it. But go to remoteviewed.com. Even if you don't spend much time on it, just go to remoteviewed.com to get Daz the hits. Okay. And, subscribe if he's got a newsletter and all that stuff, because I want to make sure that the only reason we have this is because Daz shared it with us. So he deserves full credit for making that decision and sharing that information with the world. So please go and do that. Let's see. All right, where are we? Man, we're making good time. I kind of just landed within 10 minutes. Let's see. Indeed, there's definitely a lot here. Oh, Lemoore Air Force Base was also sued for testing advanced weapons. Interesting. I doubt they will. It's so far out there. Yeah, Daz did great. Yep. 100%. Really? Danny Sheehan feels that way? I don't know. He's an institutionalist. He feels like he's an institutionalist. I mean, most baby boomers are, right? What else? What do folks think of all that? Oh, somebody on Twitter direct messaged me and told me that BTC, yeah, it's a science. So that BTC term that I read, I didn't know what it was. It means brain to cranium interface, and it's a Scientology term. If you notice in the prelude, it talks about how Pat Price was a Scientologist. All right, what else? What else we got going on? I'm just here we go. Yeah, I appreciate you, Hannah. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Yeah, it's gonna be after Thanksgiving. It's gonna be tough going back. I knew that. Yeah, we're not gonna get disclosure from the feds. I mean, you know, they're debanking people for no reason, right? So without due process, the last thing they're gonna do is tell us the truth about anything. I mean, we're thralls in a tyranny. That's where we are right now. Yeah, it feels super specific, and that definitely feels odd. Yep. No, I do not. Can you hint at the crazy? Yeah, yeah. I think they're just he's written them out, and they were just photocopied. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I just have a stuffy nose. Like I'll be fine. I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, Pat Price was he was pretty amazing though. He's like pretty detailed about some of the stuff that he found. It could be. I you know it could be all that stuff could be 100% correct. It could be 80% correct. It could be 100% flight of fancy. I don't know. Whoa, that's crazy about his picture with that VJ Rill. What's the VJ Rill device? What is that? Yeah, thralls. Enthralled, right? So a thrall is a slave, basically. Thrall. Vajra device. Oh, Vril. Is it Vril or I know what Vril is. I know who the Vril are. Um, that book in like the 1870s or 1890s, The Coming of the Race or something like that. But it was like something related to the Vril Society in pre-Nazi Germany. Yeah, indeed. All right. It goes without saying, but I'm going to put this below. So if you're enjoying this when you're watching this and I don't annoy you too much, please subscribe. And if you don't subscribe, at least like and share and all that stuff. Because I my projections for my channel were well beyond where I am right now in terms of number of subscribers and things like that. I'm not whining or complaining, but I can ask. I can ask for help. Uh, but I'm just putting that out there. Let's see. Oh, so he had a real device on his nightstand. That's kind of creepy. Yeah, it was a little creepy, infiltration by elites, but kind of makes sense. I mean, all right, what else we got going on? Also, I'm only gonna ask once. Uh, if you feel inclined, super sticker, super thanks, all that stuff. I appreciate anything, but that's the only plug we'll get for that because I feel creepy about asking about it. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't want to like. I don't want to be a victim. I don't want to make excuses, and I don't want to whine. Life's not fair, but it is what it is. Life's not fair, right? But you can't define yourself by it. But yeah, it's frustrating. And there are channels that started a third and got three times the number of subscribers in a third of the time that I did. I don't I don't understand it. T Nubbins. Oh boy. Yeah, and I might be a little too close to the mark, right? Like the government doesn't want people talking about their narrative is they have like Russian, mysterious drones. Somebody's flying drones. They don't want that we're unable to shoot them down because they're non-human technology that we can't identify. Yeah, yeah. There's tags and all that stuff. I'm just not very. I'm probably not that great at it, but I'm also not. I'm not going to pay somebody to do it because it. I don't think it. I think the issue is that I think the issue is YouTube. To be honest, like the data suggests that the issue is just YouTube. Because everything else is trending the way it's supposed to, but the only thing that YouTube controls is impressions, and like they're just parsimonious with me on impressions. Yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. I think like the U.S. government and AI, I think YouTube picks winners. I think they're like we can only have like 2 to 3 main channels, and we'll push these and everybody else whatever. I think that's how. I think that's what happens. And some like blue hair in the background just says, "Oh, I really like this guy because we need more marginalized voices," and I think there's a lot of that going on. I'm not saying it is, and I'm not making excuses. If I have a higher hurdle, that's fine. I'll just fight harder and work harder than competitors who have the bar lowered for them. Right? That's just the way life is. Life's not fair. And I'll see it as a challenge, and I'll just keep fighting and pushing. That's the way I work. You know, I don't make excuses. Yeah. Oh my god. I think his mind would explode. I regretted doing that. I, I was just trying to come up with a ridiculous voice. I didn't mean any harm with that. I didn't mean to imply. It's just I know it sounds ridiculous, so I just used it. I believe that. I believe that Price was forbidden from disclosing 90%, 95% of what he discussed. Yeah. All right. I should probably call it a night. So I hope you all enjoyed your Thanksgiving. If you're Americans, if not, if you're in the UK, um, try not to try not to get arrested for saying something offensive on social media. Um, and you know, try to avoid malls that the police don't allow white people to enter. The usual stuff in the UK, and hopefully that they don't, start. Hopefully they don't send a suicide drone to the U.S. nuclear weapons there, and cause a radioactive plume to blow across the island. Let's just hope that doesn't happen. All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Paco. Pete. Thank you, Gray Al. Thank you, David Steele, King James. I can't even, but I'm rolling boner. Thank you. I'm rolling boner dice. I appreciate that. It's you don't really notice the names until you read them on air. But that is an inspired name. I don't even know what boner dice are, but someday, if it's not X-rated, I'd like to see what boner dice actually look like. Sometimes I feel like I need to design a T-shirt that just says I'm rolling boner dice, but that's your idea, so I'm not going to steal your intellectual property. Yeah, I might, but it hasn't. That pair hasn't always done me the best. So anyway, all right. Good night. Godspeed. God bless, and take care of yourselves. And disclosure's coming, whether government likes it or not. And thank you all.